Welcome to the Milwaukee Mile, race 17 of the NASCAR Busch Series, the GNC Live Well 250, today on FX, on a track that's never had a repeat winner or a repeat pole sitter. Let's get down and meet the man on the pole with Speedway Illustrated's Dick Berggren.
Kevin Harvick starts on the pole for the fourth time this year. He has a terrific race car. It's the same car he won the Kentucky race with. He comes into this event leading the points, but the guy who's starting outside of him is his arch rival, Greg Biffle. So who's going to lead going into the first corner?
Well, we're geared up to lead the first lap, but after that, he can lead all he wants. We just need to finish the race and get everything we can out of it, and we'll just see what happens from there. But I want to say thank you to you guys. You guys have done a great job, Fox, with the coverage, and going to miss you for a year.
Thank you, and good luck today. Steve Burns.
Yeah, Dick, this is going to be a great battle. Greg Biffle alongside Kevin Harvick. Greg, you won from the pole here in a truck race in 1999. Can you win today?
I certainly think we can. The Granger Ford's been awful good since we got here. We tested here about a month ago, and really good and happy hour. If we can just keep it together and run a good race, I think we'll have something for them at the end.
Best of luck. Let's go back upstairs to Mike Joy.
Thanks, Steve. Hi, everybody. Along with Larry McReynolds and Jeff Hammond, DW has the weekend off. Well, a tough racetrack to get a hold of, Larry, but boy, that front group in the starting grid looks kind of familiar.
Boy, 41 cars, but yeah, I like that front two rows. Kevin Harvick, Greg Biffle, Jason Keller, Jeff Green, that's the top four in points. They show why they're the top four. They're fast every week, but like Dick Berggren said, the bad news, Kevin Harvick got that same race car he mutilated the field with last week in Kentucky.
Jeff, the weather has changed. Yesterday, hot and muggy. Today, it's spring-like.
Obviously is, Mike. Believe it or not, folks, it's 20 degrees cooler. Yesterday, 92. Today, 72. It could be a big factor in what goes on today during this race.
All right, we're set to get going. 41 cars in this, the midpoint of the 2001 season for NASCAR's Busch Series. So to get things underway, as we do each week on Fox, let's go trackside for today's opening ceremonies here in Milwaukee.
Of our national anthem. Today's invocation will be given by Jim Lanning of Motor Racing Outreach.
Let us pray. Father, we are reminded in Scripture of your words where you say, "This is the day that the Lord hath made. Rejoice and be glad in it." And Father, we sure do rejoice in this day you've given us here at Milwaukee Mile. What a beautiful day. We give you thanks. Father, we would ask your blessing on all the racing today, on all the festivities. We pray that you'll help each competitor to do their very best. Father, we pray that there will be safety all around this track. Most of all, Lord, we're thankful for Jesus Christ. Through our faith in him, we can have an abundant life and an eternal life. And to him be all praise and glory. Amen.
Please remain standing for the singing of the Star Spangled Banner by Wisconsin Male Vocalist of the Year, Tom Green. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave? Ladies and gentlemen, here to give the command that will send the field on its way, the GNC Live Well 250, is our Grand Marshal, Mr. Jim Yarshin. Gentlemen, and the Parker brothers, start your engine!
to get your motor running, we're going Busch Racing on FX for the final time in 2001. Live from the Milwaukee Mile. Stay tuned. Back to the Milwaukee Mile. Let's have a look at the cast-off starting grid for today's race. Kevin Harvick, second straight Bud Bull, and quickest in final practice, Greg Biffle, with 2 wins this year. Jason Keller, his best start this season, and Jeff Green, the defending champion of this race, in row 2. Bobby Hamilton Jr., 13th here last year, and rookie contender Jamie McMurray ties his best start. Double dipper Joe Ruttman finished 6th in the truck race here yesterday, and Mike Skinner wins the Cup regular. Row 5, Elton Sawyer makes his 150th consecutive Busch Series start, and Kenny Wallace, who will now be full-time in the Busch Series rest of the year, it appears. Hank Parker Jr., 5th in final practice, and David Green. 3 top 5 finishes here. Kevin Grubb with Tony Raines, 5 top 10s in the last 7 races for Raines. Ashton Lewis Jr., still sponsor searching, and Mike McLaughlin, the Talladega winner, 5th in points. Tim Fedowa in the Buckshot Racing Chevy, and with Jay Sauter is one of 4 Wisconsin drivers in the field. Another is Matt Kenseth, who finished 5th his last 2 times here. Ron Hornaday, first time in a Busch car this season. Jeff Purvis in what is likely his last ride for Joe Gibbs Racing. That team will probably shut its doors on Monday, we're told. And Rich Bickle from Wisconsin, 2 top 10s this year. Shane Hall and Randy LaJoy with 1 win and 3 top 5s for the former series champ. Kelly Denton in the 54, and Jeff Bodine makes his 2nd start in the 66. Chad Little, 10th in the points, and Scott Wimmer, another Wisconsin native, with 1 top 5 in his rookie season so far. David Donahue with Brian Vickers, first Busch Series start for the 17-year-old. Jimmy Johnson and Brad Baker from Tennessee in the 16th row. Larry Foyt, 12th at Talladega, and Mike Harmon. Joe Busch and Brad Teague in row number 18. Curtis Davis makes his 3rd series start. Robbie Faggart back in the 49 car. Lance Hooper, Truck Series regular, makes his 1st Busch start of the year. And Bill Hoff, his 3rd race of the season. And Billy Parker, the younger brother of Busch Series regular Hank, makes his 2nd career start today. "41 cars, not a full field here in Milwaukee. They'll race 250 laps, same number of miles, and the pit window could make for interesting strategy.
Always be important. Watch that pit window real close here. A lot of teams knowing they can't do it on 1 stop, which would be 125 laps. Probably be a little conservative, but that could be a big factor at the end of the race.
Definitely can, and we talked about it earlier. The pit road, how you get on and off here, because this is a very tough racetrack to pass on, so track position is going to be key today.
Some of our onboard cameras cycling through. This one is Kenny Wallace. University of Wisconsin there on Elton Sawyer's number 98 car. And the front 4, familiar sight. There's your top 4 in the points, or your top 4 in qualifying as we set to go green here at the Milwaukee Mile.
All right, like I tell you every week, let's reach up there, let's pull those belts tight. 250 laps, 250 miles. Come on. Going through the gearbox.
I thought you were going to say, like I tell you every week, boogity, boogity, boogity.
That's the other man.
Here we go.
All right.
It'll be interesting to see who beats who off down this turn 1. Who's going to be the bullhead here?
You want to beat down there, and you want to be the one at the bottom.
You got it right.
Well, Biffle got a good jump. But he's not going to clear Harvick going into 1. Right off his quarter panel.
Greg Biffle, he got a good bite up there in that 2nd group. Not a lot of rubber. It's going to be a drag race down the backstretch. Each of them wants to lead that 1st lap. Get those 5 bonus points for lead. Gets quite the bite up there. He got
he crossed over.
There.
Crossed right over on him. Here they come to the stripe. Who will lead lap 1? Biffle. Not by much.
By inches. They're already going in it just like it's the last lap of the race, guys.
Comes Jason Keller, stuck a nose in there and thought better of it.
2 guys, they about overdrove turn 1. So important not to overdrive your entrance here because you can't get off the corner. You got to keep it to the bottom.
What we've seen already from Kevin Harvick and Greg Biffle, by the fact that Greg is racing so hard in that 1st lap, I guarantee you right now the blood is boiling in that number 2 car.
This is Greg Biffle's first start in a Busch car here. He did compete in 2 truck races, actually won here in the Truck Series in 1999.
And way up high goes Biffle, and it costs him 3 positions.
We said it a few minutes ago, you cannot overdrive that corner, and that's exactly what Biffle did. He went there a little bit too hard. That thing lost grip, and away she went.
So the race comes to Kevin Harvick. He'll lead his first lap of the day this time around. He's now led in 6 consecutive Busch Series races.
Well, look at a car sticking to the picture early there. The 26 car, Bobby Hamilton Jr., already in the 3rd.
Oh, yeah. That was the first lap.
I've seen that a lot this year.
Harvick, Keller, Hamilton. Bobby Hamilton Jr. from 5th on the grid up to 3rd. Let's have a look back at 19th place where Rich Bickle and Matt Kenseth, Wisconsin natives, battle it out.
Matt Kenseth in 17 not happy at all yesterday in that final practice. They were making major changes on that car.
Exactly. Talked to Matt. He was here bright and early, believe it or not. The driver, 8 o'clock in the morning, was in there with the crew because he was not happy with his race car. He wants to win this race so bad. If he's going to take a weekend off, he wants to get to victory lane. They totally overhauled the car today to get Matt more happy with the race car.
The 07 of Lance Hooper makes an early 3 or 4 laps and goes to the garage. Rain last night to tighten up the racetrack. Colder day tightens up the racetrack. And yesterday's final event here was run on Hoosier tires. The Busch Series cars hadn't been on the track since. So the track's got to have a whole different feel than it did yesterday to these folks.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, it's going to be tighter. The cars won't be as loose as they were off the corner yesterday, but the cars will just have more grip, and we're probably going to see faster speeds. I know there was a lot of gear selections being made this morning based on the track being faster because you'll turn way too many RPMs if you've got a lower gear and the cars are running faster. Steve Burns.
Hey, Larry, talking to some of the other crew chiefs like you did, I found out that they're going to have 15 to 20 more horsepower because of the weather difference, which means 0.3 to 0.4 of a lap, second a lap quicker. It's pretty amazing how much faster.
These old motors, they love that old cool air going down in that air box down to those carburetors.
6th place battle here as they work around Bill Hoff, whose car never really did get up to speed here.
Mike, one thing I'd like to talk about with Bill Huff, I talked to him about 2 weeks ago, and he was still trying to run the original 9-to-1 compression engines against these 12-to-1 engines, which is a severe disadvantage. If you talk about the Milwaukee Mile, you got long straightaways. If your engine doesn't run down the straightaway, you're going to get overhauled real quick.
And what the 9-to-1, 12-to-1 is, that's compression ratio.
Exactly right.
Joe Ruttman in the number 1. It's kind of been a revolving door in the seat of that car this season.
Well, they're going to skip the race next week at Watkins Glen, but back in Chicago, Jimmy Spencer will be in this car. This is the same car that Randy LaJoie, that run for this team last year, won with at Nashville, first race for this car this year.
Mike Skinner, part of that battle. There in the 21.
Mike Skinner in the 21, he won the very first truck race here in 1995.
Looks inside of Ruttman. Looks like this is another of those racetracks where the inside line off the corner just doesn't seem to give you as much pull as that high groove if the high groove's working.
I think you can look for that high groove to get better as the day goes on. Mike talked about earlier, it rained hard here last night. Washed a lot of the rubber off. So it might take a few laps for the outside groove to come in, but I look for it to become a way for the guys to make passes as we go through the rest of the day.
Turn 1, Skinner got a good run off turn 4. That got him down the front straightaway underneath Ruttman, but it's hard to seal the deal coming off the turn 2 on the inside.
Boy, you look at the front end of Mike Skinner's car, on the top grille, you'll notice that they taped up the left-hand side. The reason they're doing that is that's the corner you're wanting to plant, the left corner. That creates front downforce. You can see it right there. That creates that front downforce. To plant that left front corner will help that car turn when it gets down to the corner. And if you notice on the straightaway, Mike kept trying to get the left front out in the air, getting that downforce on it out from behind another car.
Well, it's worked. He's now cleared Ruttman. That'll put him up into 6th place. as Kevin Harvick has a 1.3-second lead over Jason Keller. Bobby Hamilton Jr., Greg Biffle, and Jeff Green, your top 5. 17 laps at the Milwaukee Mile, one of the best races on the track. At third place, Bobby Hamilton Jr., Greg Biffle trying to rebound.
And they have been going at it hard for the last 5 or 6 laps.
Larry, we listened to, got a little bit of dialogue across the radio scanner right there with Randy Goss's crew chief, and they were telling Biffle to please settle down. He was working the car way too hard. Get in a rhythm and realize you're going to wear that right front tire down if you don't slow down a little bit.
Telling Biffle to settle down, that's like telling a bulldog not to bark.
Yeah, right. Or not to chase mailmen. Dick?
Well, Biffle is running the car really hard, Mike, and at the end of the straightaway, before he lets off the throttle to get into the corners, we can hear the engine rattle down here. That means he's on the rev limiter. He is running that thing absolutely as tight as it could possibly go. He's also been on the radio and told his crew that he's loose in and he's tight under throttle. Tight and loose. Tough to fix.
That is a tough problem. But I like running a rev limiter at a racetrack like this. And I used to have to run a rev limiter with a certain rev chip in it with Mike Skinner a lot. But what a rev limiter is, it's hooked into the ignition system, and you put a certain RPM chip, and when that engine gets to that RPM, it will start killing cylinders. But it's also a good telltale sign to the driver, hey, I'm turning too many RPMs getting in the corner.
A little further back, the 2 Wisconsin drivers, Bickle 59, 17 Kenseth, continue to race for 19th place. Right with him, Randy LaJoie.
Larry, to add to what you were talking about the rev limiter, I was talking to Johnny Allen on the one car, and he said they've got one in also for Ruttman, and what they're able to do now is pull a little bit lower gear to be able to get up off the corner, which they feel is very important. To be able to get that position at about the start-finish line, but also, as you said earlier, to keep over-driving the car and being able to have that gear in there and not be able to blow the engine up. They're using that rev limiter to keep the driver blowing the engine.
Yeah, with the lower gear, you've got to depend on your driver, especially with fresh tires when the car's a little faster, to take care of it getting in the corner, not sit up there and just hammer against that rev limiter.
Still side by side, Kenseth kind of eating away there at Bickle, and now can't quite clear him. Maybe this time.
Randy LaJoie in the 7 car, he's kind of sitting back there saying, okay, who's going to get the preferred line here? That's the guy I'm going to follow. This is the car that Randy and the guys they ran at Richmond, they say this car always tests good, but it never would race good. They went to Lakeland, Florida here a few weeks ago, did some major testing, which a lot of teams go to places like Lakeland, Florida, and it's actually a Brian Robertson chassis, which is kind of a copy of a Hendrick chassis, and they feel like they figured something out, but he said, Larry, I still can't qualify. Started deep in the field.
A number of drivers have had problems with their qualifying package in this series. This season, with the harder tire being one of the adjustments that they've had to make. And hard power being the other.
The hard tire, it's hard to hook up when it don't have extra air pressure in it and when it's cold.
Now, tell me, are these 2 fellas having great fun, or is frustration beginning to sit in here, running laps side by side?
Kind of look at it, maybe the fact we talked about the outside grooves starting to come in, and Rich Bickle has raced here a number of times, truck races and other types of ASA type of racing, so he knows the racetrack. He knows sooner or later that upper groove's going to come in, and I think that's what he's working on.
Now, while this goes on, also the battle for 10th place. Kevin Grubb make that for 9th. Kevin Grubb, Jamie McMurray, 9th and 10th. With Grubb completing the pass. And Wallace right behind them. Brad Teague has gone to the garage, 8 DNFs this season for that 77 car. Overheating is the reason, and already our 41-car field has dropped to 38 cars on the track.
Meanwhile, these 2 guys, they're still side by side going at it. And again, this is a battle for 19. Boy, it bumped a little bit down the front stretch there.
They're beginning to stack cars up behind them. LaJoie is right there, and looking in is Tim Fedowa. For more, here's Steve.
Well, Mike, I can tell you this, the 17 of Matt Kenseth and the 59 of Rich Bickle, these teams are pitted right next to each other, and they are not happy about the fact the 17 team, they think Rich Bickle should get out of the way in the 59, so some tension it down here on pit road as well.
Well, what they don't want to have happen is a whole lot more of this.
This is coming down the front stretch. They've been running side by side. A little, let you know, I'm tired of you being there. Get behind me. The guys in front of us are getting smaller while we're doing this.
You don't think Bickle's just as tired of him?
Oh, we got trouble going into turn one.
Oh, the one car, Ruttman, got all squirreled up way up the racetrack. And in, did he hit the wall?
Yes, hit the wall real hard, sitting right in the middle of the racetrack. Caution is on the speedway.
Yeah, guys, I just happened to look down and I saw Ruttman start down into turn one. He actually turned in a little too quick and got in, I believe, the 49 car.
Dick Bergeron was happened right in front of him.
Yeah, it sure did, Mike, and it looked as if something went wrong with the right front tire on Ruttman's car. The thing just went into that turn one, very fishy, and almost kept it off the wall, but then all of a sudden, kaboom, in she went.
Our stadium-style grandstand here is going to be torn down and replaced at the beginning of next season. I will personally throw out the first brick. We'll be right back. Working the first caution of the day in the GNC Live Well 250. Most of the leaders stayed out.
Well, we're only 29 laps into this race, and just remember the Busch rules. They only have 3 sets of tires that they can change under caution. So you got to kind of be a little careful when you put those new tires on there.
So from about 16th position on back, cars came in and pitted. Some took 2, some took gas only. We'll come back and set the running order for you in a moment. Welcome back to the GNC Live Well 250 on FX. Working the first caution of the day for Joe Ruttman's crash. Let's get an update on pit stops. First from Steve Burns.
Mike, Rich Bickle was one of the cars that pitted at number 59. They're tight from the middle off. We've been watching him battle with Matt Kenseth in the 17. They went down a pound on left side tires and went up 3 rounds on the track bar. And the right front, we understand, may be cut by the fender. Set that just came off the right front is cut. Let's go to Dick Bergeron.
We've been eavesdropping. Kevin Harvick has just told his crew that he's a bit loose going into the turns as well as he is running. Jeff Green in the number 10 car said his car is tight through the center. He said the nose of the car feels light, like there isn't any weight on it. Greg Biffle in the 60, who started on the outside of the front row, has been getting tighter and tighter as this race has worn on. He has told his crew that he can get just a little bit tighter before the car is really bad. Mike?
Also, Bill Hoff was on pit road having right front fender damage repaired, where he and Joe Ruttman got together going into turn 1. And we'll have Ruttman shortly when he is released from the care center.
But boy, if I'm Todd Berry or Kevin Harvick's crew chief, I don't mind being a little loose getting in the corner. What you got to be so careful, though, you start tightening that thing up to get in the corner, you're going to really hurt it turning off. And that's where you beat people here, is from the center off the corner, getting back to the throttle and staying in it.
The one thing earlier is a lot of drivers will tell you, I can deal with it as long as it's not a snappy loose getting down in the corner. I'd rather have it just a little bit loose. As a crew chief, I would rather have it that way also, because he can't control that.
Billy Parker will not be with the field when they come to green. His car on pit road. They're working under the hood to try and get him back out. Kevin Harvick's going to lead them down to the green flag. Remember, the first 14 or 15 cars did not pit. So just the way they're running at the time of the caution is how they will restart. Harvick, Keller, Hamilton Jr., Biffle, Green, that's Jeff Green, Skinner, Sawyer, Grubb, McMurray, and David Green are the top 10.
For the most part, they didn't have any lap traffic to deal with this early in the race. Had a couple of cars trying to get up there that was a lap down, so they didn't have that to deal with, and that can be aggravating late in the race here. Also, the 77 car, Brad Teague, hey, he retired his car for the day and went to the garage here. Jason Keller, that 57 car, this is the same car that he won with at Loudon a couple of months ago. He liked this style of race car. Flat corners, see him drive it in there, arc it up a little bit, try to get that run off the corner.
We got a log jam off of turn 2 over there. It looks like Jamie McMurray's got some kind of problem. We got a lot of cars going by him.
Yeah, he didn't get going coming off turn 2, Jeff, and just backed the field up. There he is hung on the outside, not making forward progress. Jay Sauter just in front of McMurray. Now Matt Kenseth goes by on the inside. And with him comes the 48 of Kenny Wallace.
This is a battle for 12.
Billy Parker is back in the race after a lengthy pit stop that's cost him several laps. On the Briggs & Stratton onboard, Kenny Wallace.
Talk about Kenny Wallace now as he pulls up on the back of Jamie McMurray at 27. Again, released. They decided to part their ways with his Winston Cup ride this past week. Barry Dobson and the Eel River organization. He's going to concentrate on this Busch for national effort. But I talked to his crew chief, Jared Kennan. They are building a Winston Cup car, and they're going to try to field that car in the second Loud New Hampshire race in September. So Kenny Wallace by no means has finished racing Winston Cup this year.
Jeff Purvis inside of Wallace. Goes by and makes the pass. That's for 15.
Boy, you see the car as Kenny Wallace drove off in the corner, jumped on that brake. The front end looked like it came down about 3 inches right there. Get on that brake, get off of it, let the car roll through the corner, jump back in that throttle and try to stay in it.
Larry Foyt up near the wall, turn 2, keeps it off the wall, and he's going to get going again, but go to the tail end of the field.
Larry Foyt, they was really been struggling all weekend here, and I talked to his crew chief, John Wolf, and they had good hopes coming here because Larry Foyt has competed in ASA races here, but he said, Larry, it hadn't seemed to help us here this weekend.
The car went into one, just climbed the hill and kept going, and he nearly ran out of racetrack.
And Michael, we were just about 3 wide down in 1 and 2 right there with Jimmy Johnson, Ron Hornaday, and Kenny Wallace just a second ago. He got real dicey right down in turn 1 a second ago.
Whoa! We got a car sideways. That's Joe Busch in a 94 car. Caution is on the speedway.
No, Ashton Lewis is part of that. Lewis in the 46, who had such a great run at Kentucky. In fact, he had such a great run that some folks from Florida sent us some T-shirts with your logo here on them. The race team has had the same idea, and the whole race team has your logo here. Now, there's Busch in the 94. It looks like everybody else is going to get away, but Ashton Lewis is going to limp onto pit road after being involved in that one. And you see heavy right front damage to the Lewis Racing number 46. They are still looking for a sponsor. They said they've had a lot of interest and some contact since the Kentucky race from interested companies, but nothing yet. Not sure if they'll be able to go the whole season, but not sure if they'll be able to go much further today.
And what I'm seeing, the right front tire is towed way out. Evidently, that thing's got a bent drag length or a broken tie rod.
Entering turn 3. There's Lewis, and he had to hit the brakes, and he got hit from behind by Tim Fedowa after the 94 of Joe Busch spun.
And that, well, they were jumping on the brake because they seen Joe Busch in the 94 starting to get sideways in the middle of the corner.
Let's watch from Hank Parker Jr.
Start stacking up behind each other. Nowhere to go.
And the 94 just went around. Nobody touched him, it didn't appear. All right, the first caution of the day was Joe Ruttman. Steve is with him.
Hey, Mike, he's just come out of the infield care center. Joe, are you okay? And tell us what happened on the racetrack.
Well, I don't know. James, do you have any more cars? I'm tearing them up one right after the other. Bobby, I don't do that to your trucks. I don't know what the problem is. No, I seem to be doing all right. You know, I'm just, maybe shook some brains in me. I don't know. You know, that might be an advantage, but it's a shame for Yellow and all of the Finch racing team. We had a good car, and I think it just come in a little quick and caught the 49. It's a driver error on the driver of the one car. So maybe that'll learn me a lesson. If I can keep running long enough, maybe I'll learn enough lessons I won't keep making these mistakes.
Thanks, Joe. Let's go back to Mike.
Thanks, Steve. So it was Ruttman, by his own admission, cutting down on the 49 car before he had cleared him that caused the first caution. We'll have some pit stops. Some of the leaders will be in under this caution. Coming around to complete 43 laps in the GNC Live Well 250. Kevin Harvick has led them all. He did not choose to pit, nor did the rest of the top, well, about 15 drivers, 16 drivers still out there. Here we go, green flag.
Last start to deal with again. Gets a good restart on Jason Keller. Pulls him by about 5 car lengths into turn 1.
The race restarts with Ashton Lewis and Tim Fedowa, both behind the wall making repairs.
Now, I'd rather be where Kevin Harvick, Jason Keller, Bobby Hamilton Jr. So hard to pass here. I believe I'd rather be up there with 440
40-lap tires and back in the field before fresh time.
Absolutely, Larry. You can see right now, I know as a crew chief, when you restart on a racetrack where it's really only one groove, and you never know what's exactly going to happen, when you're back in the back, it's just literally hang on, hold your breath, and hopefully everything will get sorted out and you can go back racing.
Mike Skinner in that 21 car all over the back of Jeff Green in the 10 car. Of course, Jeff Green, dominating this race a year ago, sat on the pole and won the race.
And a little quick math shows that the drivers who pitted now still cannot complete the race on just 2 pit stops.
No.
So it's still strategy up in the air. Let's go back behind pit wall to Dick Bergman.
I'm with Ashton Lewis, struggling, just trying to afford to make the races. He has made all the races so far this year on family money. How bad does this accident put you guys behind?
It was hard for me to hear you, but you know, we're trying to come off a good run at Kentucky with the 5th place, and we've got the year logo here car, and we weren't a great car. We were about 15th or 17th. I'm not sure what it was, and we came in to make an adjustment to put us in the back, just trying to bide our time, and somebody got loose. A 94 car got loose over there in 3 and 4, and we started checking up, and somebody behind me hit me in the back and spun us and got us in the wall. So, you know, we were hoping to carry off a good run at Kentucky and bring it into here in Milwaukee, and you know, we weren't going to be great, but we we're going to have a decent finish and get out of here and go to Watkins Glen. Now we just had to go to Watkins Glen with a good car.
And this one is really beat up. To Steve Burns.
Well, Dick, Tim Feedwell also behind the wall. Tim, the hood's up. What are you working on?
All I know is I was coming up on some cars and someone got squirrely in the middle of the pack there. And Ashton made a move to the outside, and I was already out there and kind of running back to him. So it's just early traffic here at Milwaukee on these short tracks. It's got to use your head. We had a pretty good car. We were a little loose. We pitted early to try to fix it and try to gain some track position, and it came back to bite us. So it's one of them things, I guess. Just thanks to Wayne Jessel and all the guys at Gasoline Alley and Billy Jones for letting me do this.
And they're going to try and get this car back in the race, Mike.
Thanks, Steve. Jeff Purvis, you're riding with Purvis, entering turn 3 underneath Jamie McMurray, bringing Kenny Wallace with him, and now Purvis goes after Jimmy Johnson in the 92. All of these are drivers who did not pit during the early caution. Now, 2 laps to go, entering turn 3. Here's Greg Biffle. There's Bobby Hamilton Jr. up on the outside of Biffle.
Ooh, that's close right there. That was really close.
He's 26 car Bobby Hamilton Jr. doing all he can to just hold on to it.
Not only did it cost him that position when Biffle got by him, I think it cost him 2 more because we got a check up out of the throttle. Several more cars got by him.
Now let's go back to some of the cars who did make pit stops. Scott Wimmer first came in for gas on the first caution, came in for tires on the second caution in the number 23. Battling there with Chad Little in the 74.
And now that we're 50 laps in this race, what would be good for these guys like Scott Wimmer in the 23 that changed 4 tires is for about a 10 or 15, maybe 20 lap run. Then we know the leaders are going to have to come to pit road. That would put them at the front of the field, getting that so important track position.
Bobby Hamilton Jr. and Mike Skinner have been in pretty close proximity here, 5th and 6th place. Skinner's had a few runs up under Bobby, but not able to complete the pass.
Well, even right there in 3 and 4, you can see Mike jump back to the gas in the middle of the corner, make the lunge. It's like the car just wouldn't turn. He was maybe back to the throttle too soon. He'd have to get back off the throttle. Right here, he gets a run, gets up high, almost gets into the left rear of Bobby Hamilton Jr. Right here, Bobby Hamilton Jr. pulls him off the corner again because Mike didn't look like he could actually stay in the throttle.
One thing I found it interesting talking to several drivers and crew chiefs, that they were able to get through 1 and 2 fairly easy. And I do not know if that's totally because of the way the asphalt is down here in the bank in 1 and 2, but they were really struggling a lot with 3 and 4. If you made an adjustment to make 3 and 4 better, you hurt yourself in 1 and 2. So you have to live with one end or the other.
It's kind of funny because the track is symmetrical and the surface is similar, that one end would be so much different than the other.
And all it takes is one little difference. You know, maybe the radius of the corner just a little bit makes such a difference in the way you drive the corner. But, you know, Mike Skinner in his 21, he took over for Mike Dillon. He's competed in 8 races in this race car. He's only finished out of the top 10 one time and has had 5 top 5s. I mean, that team went from like in the mid-20s in owner points up to the top 10. So what a difference he's made for this race team and trying to carry this confidence to that Winston Cup team.
Well, he's about to have company. Elton Sawyer carrying University of Wisconsin colors today, and Kevin Grubb are moving in on that battle for 5th place. The GNC Live Well 250 on FX continues after this.
The leaders are in the pit right now. Kevin Harvick, who has led this thing virtually from the get-go, is in. He's going to take 4 tires. They're going to try and adjust this car so that he is a little bit better off in the corners. God, he's beat everybody out at pit road, all the cars that finished.
You're seeing the 11, Ron Hornaday, in that triple split because he did not pit. He is the race leader. The caution is out for 17-year-old Brian Vickers, who met with the concrete at turn 2.
There you see him at the top of the screen right there. Chad Little in the 74 behind him. Chad gets back to the gas, gives him a little help right there. All it takes at those speeds is just a little nudge, and around you go. But fortunately, no one else got into him, but he did hit the outside wall real hard right there with the right front.
Yeah, Vickers' car just didn't start to accelerate up off the corner. Here's a look from Hank Parker Jr. GNC on board.
We're really quite lucky we didn't have more than just one car involved right there. Jeffrey Bodine got in the back of Chad Little, and as you can see right there, the in-car camera, he almost got in the back of Jeffrey Bodine.
6 cars behind the wall so far. Tim Fedewa, Ashton Lewis, joined by Joe Ruttman, Brad Teague, and others. First lead change of the day in the GNC Live Well 250. Ron Hornaday, who pitted back on the lap 40 caution, has now gone to the front of the field. Rich Bickle, the 23 car, Scott Wimmer, right up there with him. So is Randy LaJoy and Jeffrey Bodine. Those are your top 5 as we go back to green, and these are all cars like Brad Baker in 6th place and Shane Hall 7th that pitted on the prior caution.
Well, he brought him to a slow restart. When he decided to go, he jumped out to a big start. We used to do it in the truck series. Of course, Marty Houston, normally driving the 11 car, a struggling race team decided, hey, let's put someone in there, maybe with some experience. Not saying that Marty Houston's not done a good job, but let's see what we might be fighting here. Let's see if we can get some different input about our race car.
You talking about jamming them up. I wish you'd look at the distance between what he's been able to do. His lead position all the way back into the pack right now. These guys are stacked up coming up off of turn 4. And it's really getting dicey back in there.
All with fresh tires. And all running about a quarter turn of the racetrack behind the leader.
And just again, we'll talk about this for the next 190 laps. Track position. I'd rather have older tires out front than fresher tires in the middle of the field. But somewhere like the leaders, when you get up to 50 or 60 laps, you've got to come in the pits and get tires and fuel.
3rd place race. Scott Wimmer, Randy LaJoy in the 7th.
These guys as well, they were back on pit road about lap 39 or 40, 4 fresh tires. This fits the plan that they had by pitting back then, that a caution would go 10 or 15 laps and another caution come out, make the leaders all pit. They're up there with track position.
But I think it's going to come undone on them, Larry, because Kevin Harvick's already up to 7th place and coming hard with fresh tires.
Well, maybe for 2nd place.
Okay. For the lead. Edgerton, Wisconsin's Rich Bickle wants it. Palmdale, California's Ron Hornaday has it.
Bickle's car working good on the bottom of the racetrack right there. Hornaday's car washing up in the middle. Meanwhile, Randy LaJoy in that 7 car, he's sitting back there saying, okay, guys, which one's going to get the preferred line? He's been doing this a lot behind Rich Bickle today.
Those 2 guys right there, they know each other from the truck division. They've raced each other here, so it's not like they're unfamiliar with one another.
Rick Bickle is from the neighborhood. He's from Edgerton, Wisconsin, which is just 50 miles from here. And if he comes across the stripe leading, it's going to be the first time he has led a lap in this series since 1995. He and I had a conversation this morning, and in that conversation, Bickle said, of all the places he wants to win, this is number 1. He bad wants it. They have had a tough season this year with just 2 top 10s coming into this race. And right now, Bickle's looking awful good.
Well, he's got that car out there in clean air right now. All the downforce on the front end, a good track position. Floating that thing down in there, not working all the way around the bottom, but he's getting a good run up off the corner, running a little bit high.
Well, part of it's hometown pride. I mean, I'm sure you always wanted to do well in Talladega near your Birmingham home, but I'll tell you, Larry, as we watch this battle between Mike McLaughlin, Jason Keller, Shane Hall, and Kevin Grubb, I have not seen race fans anywhere in the country like these fans in Wisconsin. I mean, they just show how much they love their sport 24/7. It's just unbelievable, the passion for racing that comes out every time we come to Milwaukee.
They love their sport, they love their drivers, and best I can tell, they love racing on Fox.
Yeah, they definitely do. First time I've been here, and I must have had what you're saying, is that these people have made me feel like I'm at my home. It's a great feeling to be able to come up here and hang out with these fine folks here in Milwaukee.
All right, Tim Fiedel is coming back into the race. Let's check with Steve.
Yeah, but Brian Vickers is out. Mike, we introduced you to the 17-year-old youngster before the race. Brian, hate to see you this soon, but tell us what happened.
Yeah, you know, I hardly had time to break up a sweat. It's whoever's in the 74, I think it's Chad Little. I'm not really sure. I didn't really show very much patience, you know. I was just trying to make it the end of the race and run some laps. They said something about the driver's meeting. I guess he really wasn't listening. So you're going to have that, you know. It's racing, it's tight out there. I hate it for EMP and Emerson Motors. They supported us all weekend. These guys worked really hard to get this car ready.
Thanks, Brian.
And Mike, what they're talking about, Busch director John Darby this morning told all the drivers that in the past few weeks he had seen a little bit too much aggressiveness, and he'd like to see the guys be a little more patient and not tear up as much equipment. And here at Milwaukee, we've already had a little bit of trouble.
Yeah, Scott Wimmer, the 23 car, I believe he's got a right front tire down. As he went off from turn 1 and 2, the car went way up the racetrack. He was real lucky nobody got into the back of him.
He'll move it around back to pit road as we stay under green. Kevin Harvick has climbed to 4th place. He restarted 10th at lap 59 just 10 laps ago.
He is definitely moving his way back to the front because he's about 3.5 seconds in front of the closest car behind him that got 4 fresh tires. That would be the 20 car of Mike McLaughlin, who's in 7th place. Here he's underneath Ron Hornaday. Again, this is a battle for 3rd. Not a problem.
Larry, unfortunately for the 23 car, I do not believe it's a right front tire. He's taking it behind the wall.
Yep.
It did look like all the tires was up as we were watching go through turn 3 and 4.
The crew meets him behind the pit wall. A lot of room to work on the cars back there. And they'll go underneath Scott Wimmer's car, the transmission area, see if they can get him back into this race. Steve, what happened to Wimmer?
Well, Mike, we've already heard the crew say as they go to work on the car that it is a drive shaft problem for the 23 of Scott Wimmer, a drive shaft.
Thanks, Steve. 70 laps complete in the GNC Live Well 250. 180 laps, 180 miles left to go here in Milwaukee. And here is Mike Skinner, Bobby Hamilton Jr. side by side, back for 12th place. They were racing earlier, just like this, for 3rd place before pit stops.
Elton Sawyer in the 98 car, he's right in the battle right there with these guys. Remember, all these guys have 4 fresh tires from that last caution getting under the pit stops.
But nobody has made it through traffic like Harvick. Now, Jason Keller, his run to the front got stalled at 7th. Randy LaJoyce has time to go, and he looks to the inside going into turn 3 on Bickle. And he's about to have a mirror fall.
Look at his car. Look at him jump back in the throttle. Working good on the bottom. Randy's car is really working good right now. Got a real good run. They're going to be side by side down the front straightaway. Who can win the drag race in the turn 1? Little give and take. Randy LaJoyce got the bottom line.
He's also got Harvick right behind him now.
Yeah, and for both those guys, if they don't want to let Harvick slip by them underneath, they need to let Chris needs to let Randy go and go ahead and let him lead this race. I think it'd be better for him.
Well, as fast as Harvick caught these guys, Jeff, if I'm Rich Bickle or Randy LaJoyce crew chief, it's like, he caught you, he's coming, let him go, don't race him. Of course, Rich Bickle in the 59 car, they use Richard Childress motors, which will be the same motors in Kevin Harvick.
Whoa, Bickle just came right across the racetrack. Trying to protect that lead. Except now his pursuer has 15 lap pressure tires. That'll be Harvick.
But, you know, Mike, it's really worked out well for Randall Jordan and Rich Bickle. They've been able to kind of distance themselves away from the field so they can let Kevin Harvick go on and still be close enough that when they get another caution, get a fresher tires, they may be able to contend for the win before the end of the day.
And this is a good run for Bickle and for that whole team. If there's a home field advantage to be had, Kenseth, Jay Sauter, Bickle, and Scott Wimmer are the Wisconsin drivers in the field.
What I'm impressed with Rich Bickle's car is how he can't keep it down. He's up in that second groove, but gets a good bite up off the corner right there. As Harvick's car moves up a little bit, almost gets into the side of Bickle's car. Randy LaJoie moves in there for the battle for second with Bickle.
You know, Larry, we've been watching it kind of all day long, and that's where his car has been working. And Rich has told me, he said, you need to kind of be easy on the tires, and if you let the car run up a little bit, you don't bind it up. You don't abuse that right front tire, so he may be thinking about that as he goes through the rest of his run.
Can you gear the car, and can you set the car up for it to run the high groove rather than the bottom?
Well, you know, if you're gonna set it for running the bottom, you've got to pull a lower gear. That's to pull it up out of that hole off the corner.
Let's check with Steve.
Well, Mike, one thing about Rich Bickle, when he pitted on lap number 27, the team, they made a lot of changes to the car. They said he was tight from the middle off. They made air pressure adjustments, went up on the track bar, but they also told Rich Bickle to change his line. They told him to run a little bit higher line if they could to compensate for their push.
Seems to have worked out pretty well for Bickle. He now trails Kevin Harvick by 0.8 of a second with Randy LaJoie third, and 76 laps complete in the GNC Live Well 250. 250 and an unexpected stop for Randy LaJoie. Steve.
Mike, he was really running good, but you can't run well with a right rear tire going down, so they've changed right side tires right now. 2 tires only, right side going down for Randy LaJoie.
It's just impossible with a 35-mile-an-hour pit road speed to do that here and not go at least a lap down. He's actually going to go about a lap and a half down. Bad break. Of course, this set of tires is not charged against him as one of his 3 sets, but a lot of distance to make up.
Third place battle. Here's Jeff Green coming back after Ron Hornaday, who just put a bonsai move on LaJoie 2 laps ago to move up into that position. And Jeff Green goes on the bottom and makes it look easy.
Jeff Green, one of the guys that got 4 fresh tires on that last pit stop, and it's on into a run where that's going to make a big difference against these guys that has a lot more laps on their tires.
It definitely will, but again, we talk about that track position. You can afford to give it up a little bit and keep hoping that you'll get up here close to that lap 140 mark before we expect the next pit stops to kind of start to happen, that you'll be up in the top 10, and it'll be worth taking that gamble and getting out of sequence so you can get in the top 10 and get back with these guys. 15 laps doesn't sound like a lot, folks, but it's large when you come to run these race cars.
Let's give a call to Jeffrey Bodine in that 66 car. Had almost of a disaster of a weekend. His weekend when he came back to run the Busch Series at Kentucky, had 2 wrecks in practice, but here he's up here off sequence on pit stops, but he's up there running solid in the top 10. He's in 6th right now, so this is a good run for Jeffrey. Good to see him back and running competitive.
Greg Biffle working on him. And this is for 6th place. Biffle 7th, Kevin Grubb 8th.
And one thing I might add right there, Larry, in my conversation with him earlier this morning, is he loves racing, but he really wants to make a mark here so somebody will believe in him once again so they can go back to the Winston Cup. He wants to return to Winston Cup racing very, very bad.
He's let Biffle go around him there in the corner. He saw how quick Biffle caught him. No sense in racing him. Let him go on by, and that way you can fall back in line and not lose as much ground to the leader. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, somewhere about 3.5 seconds out front.
You're not going to start that, are you?
Not this soon. I won't sing, I promise.
Kevin Harvick out front by 3.5 seconds. Dick Berggren.
As happy as the crew is that Harvick is running this well today, Mike, they are even happier that all the guys they work with at Richard Childress Racing are okay. This week, a narrow escape as one of the jets had a problem. Trying to land in Atlanta, a red light came on the dash indicating that the right side wheels were not down. They tried to get closer to the ground so the ground crew could get a look at it. This was a night situation. They got close to the runway and discovered they weren't coming down over the runway at all. They were coming down over grass. It was an instrument problem. All the crew wound up sitting on one side of the airplane. They were all shaking and shuddering, but the plane got down safe. Everybody's okay. One of Richard Childress' cars is leading the race. A narrow escape.
Looks like Randy LaJoie is going to make another pit stop. His car's slowing in the backstretch. Kevin Harvick running at the finish in 59 straight races. Wow.
And that says a lot about Kevin Harvick, but says a lot about that group at Richard Childress Racing, the guys building the motors, the guys building the chassis, the people putting these race cars together, the gear and transmission people. It's all a package deal when you are running at the end of that many races.
Good indication.
Oh, trouble, turn one. 3 cars hard in the wall. Sauter, McLaughlin, and Hamilton. A hard crash in turn 1 will put us under caution for the 4th time. Didn't see how it started. All 3 of those cars were all knotted together and sliding to the wall.
See the window net down, always a great sign. That means Bobby Hamilton Jr. let the window net down on his own. It's an indication to the safety crews, I'm okay, I'm going to get out of here.
And Mike McLaughlin has driven away. Now, Jay Sauter's car is just parked up track from Hamilton and against the wall facing the opposite direction.
Definitely a scary moment there for a second because of the fire that was coming out of Bobby Hamilton's car.
Now there's Jay. There's his Hutchins device, the supplemental restraint system that he's wearing. He's out and okay. A wave to the Wisconsin fans. And Bobby Hamilton Jr., he's okay.
You're talking about somebody as tough as a bulldog now. That little boy right there, he can get the job done.
All right, McLaughlin's come to the pit. Steve?
Mike, there's heavy damage to the right side of McLaughlin's car at both ends. They just put right side tires on. Now they're checking the right front, trying to pull sheet metal off of that tire, and they're going to send him back down pit road and onto the racetrack.
That looks pretty ugly. Right there on the right side.
Yeah, the biggest thing's going to be is to get it off the tires and try to get that right front fender. We can live with all that damage on the door there, but we want to get that right front fender fixed because that's really going to hurt the front downforce of this car.
All right, Bickle and Hornaday are in on this caution. Remember, they are out of sequence with the rest of the leaders. So there's Rich Bickle. And both Hornaday and Bickle will get 4 tires. Let's have a look here.
Looking down turn 1, you know, already got together down there. That was a hard lick by both of those race cars, 43 and 26.
Boy, the nose of Sauter's car is just completely used up. Let's ride with, is this McLaughlin or Furley?
This is out of the 20 car, Mike McLaughlin. He was just a victim. I saw a lot of liquid hit his windshield like he may have got in there, oil or water, after they had already gotten together.
And there's Hamilton climbing out okay. Hops down. Has a walk over to C.J. Sauter, who was already explaining. Handshake, hey, we'll go at it next week. Well, let's show you the in-car again. We see that fluid.
You can see right there the 26 car, Bobby Hamilton. He's already loose because of whatever they got into.
I believe we had 2 cars that was a victim of them. One of the cars blowing an engine.
Yep, something broke on Jay Sauter's car, and both Hamilton and McLaughlin got into the liquid and into the wall.
Victims of circumstance.
The fortunes of racing. We'll be right back with more of the GNC Live Well 250. The whole baseball season unfolds across the Fox network.
Oh, boy.
Larry, the good news is this is the last time you have to hear this music this year.
Oh, now, I'm not happy about that, but...
Pep Boys trivia.
I got help today.
Who's the youngest driver to win a NASCAR Busch Series race?
Yeah, you don't have your book up here and Chris Myers to feed you all that information. Aha!
You don't quit beating on me.
Well, I got to do you like Daryl does me.
All right, who is it, guys?
Have no idea. Golly. Look at that thing. Casey Atwood right here. Passed on the last corner of the last lap.
There's Vickers' car, youngest guy in the field today at age 17. We're continuing on his car, but it looks like they are done for the day. The GNC Live Well 250 continues on FX after this.
Milwaukee, Bobby Hamilton Jr. and Jay Sauter. Hey, what are you doing? What are you guys doing?
Going away, Jeff.
Oh, a going away present for Fox. How about that? Well, how about that? Hey, tell us what happened, Bob. You guys shook hands. Everything all right?
Oh, yeah, I think he lost the motor or something. I seen smoke come out from the front, and it was like hitting ice from there. And I thought I had it, and I got up in all the rubber, and that's about the only thing I remember. I hit the wall, and I remember seeing all this stuff fly across everything. I seen him, and we had a good car. We were a little bit loose off the corner and everything, but we'd have been okay. We was running the top 5 all day long, and we'd have finished that way, so, oh well.
Jay, quickly, you all right?
Yeah, we're fine. It was just like you said, something broke underneath the car and dropped oil on the racetrack. Hated for the guys behind us, but Morton Salt Chevrolet was pretty tough today.
All right, and I'll never wash this shirt again.
You better not. We appreciate all you guys did all year. It's been great.
Thanks, Jay. Thank you. Back upstairs.
Well, let's see. Bobby Fella was driving like ice. Jay dumped salt on the road. You know, up here, that should fix things instead of make it worse. Oh, well. We're set for the restart with Kevin Harvick, the leader. Jeff Green has raced his way up into second spot after a pit stop on the last caution. His teammate, Jason Keller, right there in third. Greg Biffle in fourth. Jeff Bodine in fifth. Kevin Grubb, Elton Sawyer, David Green, Mike Skinner, and Matt Kenseth, the top 10.
Randy LaJoy in that 7 car, he's 2 laps down. He's back on the tail end of 1 lap down. He'd love to see a caution flag right here. Has a little bit fresher tires than Kevin Harvick after having to make that green flag stop a while ago.
Scott Wimmer back in the race. He is the pick for Greg Biffle, who goes past Jeff Bodine. Or holds off Jeff Bodine, rather, for 4th place. As the field works their way around and now heads out of turn 4. For more on Jeff Green's march to the front, Dick Berggren.
Well, last year, Jeff Green won the pole and the race here in this event. In the last round of pit stops, though, he had a lot of trouble. It was a long, long stop. 22.39 seconds. They had trouble with a track bar adjustment. He went to that pit stop 4th, came out 20th. Now he's 2nd. He's got a great car this afternoon.
30 of 41 starters running.
And LaJoy, he's doing all he can right here. He wants to see a caution, but Randy, it better come in a hurry, buddy, because you got trouble on the inside. Kevin Harvick's going to put it back 2 laps down here on lap 98. 2 laps shy of lap 100. LaJoy gets back into him saying, I'm not going to give up yet, though.
LaJoy lost those 2 laps with green flag pit stops. Now here comes Jeff Green.
The outside. Check the weather up there and see how my car grips.
Kevin Grubb coming up to battle on Greg Biffle for 4th place. Dick Berggren.
They're worried about the possibility that Greg Biffle has got a flat tire. They are not sure he does or not, but everybody's got an eyeball on it. He may have a problem.
We talk about a lot of times on restarts, if you don't get your tires cleaned off very well, it'll make a driver think he's got a tire going down. The rubber buildup that gets on those tires makes the car not have the grip it needs, and all of a sudden the guy thinks he's got a flat tire. So if he can be patient and maybe give it a chance for it to kind of clean itself up, he may not have a flat tire.
And that's where, as a crew chief, you got to be a heck of a salesman. You got to say, give it a few laps. See if you can get them cleaned off. Let's make sure we've got a flat before we make a pit stop under green.
Absolutely, and sometimes, like we talked about, these restarts are the hardest times for all the crew chiefs and the crews, because they know that not only potential of having damage done during running side by side with a lap car, but guys not getting the tires cleaned off and then panicking and overreacting.
Jason Keller moves underneath LaJoy, who backslides out of this battle for the lead. Caution flags so far. 101 laps complete, closing in on halfway. Biffle right, apparently the crew chief sold him, because here's Biffle right back under Kevin Grubb to retake the spot.
We've been watching his lap times here. Everything's okay. All the air is in the tires, Greg. We're going to be all right here, buddy.
Randy Goss, he knows Greg Biffle very well, so he knows how to make him believe in what's going on with that race car.
Do you like that theory of taking a crew chief and driver combination and moving them up through the ranks of series together?
Absolutely. If it's working, you don't want to change anything. Old adage, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And these guys right here have got it working here in the Busch division, just like they did down in the truck division. So don't be surprised if these guys, when they make the next step in the Winston Cup, you'll see them together then.
But doesn't that put as much pressure on Goss as it does on Biffle because they're both rookies in the series, and Randy's got to learn about a different kind of race car and maybe a different style of racing as Biffle battles side by side once again with Kevin Grubb here.
It does, Mike, but I really believe that when the two guys know each other, it makes that learning curve a lot quicker. And the two of them can kind of come up through this thing and sort it out together. And once they figure it out, then they both know it. You know, if I understand what I'm trying to say, you know, they know it together.
And they've got something that money cannot buy between two people, and that's chemistry between these two guys.
We've already seen it in the Winston Cup. We see here in the Busch division. Also, where team owners are moving drivers around, bringing drivers in to try to see what kind of chemistry or how strong their team is. And the reason for that is they're looking to see if chemistry can be developed with anybody.
Back up front, Harvick has a lead now of just half a second over teammates Jeff Green and Jason Keller. Chevy leading 2-4. 20 laps from halfway here on the Milwaukee Mile. It's not that Harvick has worn them out here today, but that run he made on fresh tires from 10th on the restart all the way back to the front of the pack, that's very impressive.
Well, and there's no question, you know, he may have used up a little more tire going through the traffic as he did after that restart, maybe more so than Jeff Green. He's certainly not worse than those two cars, but maybe he's not as dominant over Jeff Green and Jason Keller as he was at the beginning of the race.
But he's done something we've talked about all day long. He's gotten in valuable track position again. So if the caution does come out, or if he has to make that pit stop, he's the guy that kind of dictates to the rest of the field what's going to happen.
He has finished 44 consecutive Busch Series races. The record is held by Sam Ard at 46. That's really quite an accomplishment. I mean, you've seen today on several occasions just how easy it is to get caught up in someone else's problem, much less one of your own.
We've talked about this so much, what this kid can accomplish this year. I mean, he's working hard on the Busch National Championship. He's working hard on winning Rookie of the Year in Winston Cup, and he's solidly in the top 10 in Winston Cup points, even missing a race, the Daytona 500.
Maturity, that's what you have to say about this young man here. He has got a lot of maturity for his age, and he's taken it so well. I mean, he hasn't changed it all, winning the Winston Cup, winning the Busch, and he comes up and he's still the big kid, I guess, you know, everybody thinks of him.
Well, he's getting a double dose of maturity this season, running both the Busch and Winston Cup Series. Kevin Harvick leads the GNC Live Well 250 by 0.6 of a second. Be home to the All-Star Game in 2002. Here at the fairgrounds, GNC Live Well 250 has Kevin Harvick maintaining just 0.6 of a second on Jeff Green, Jason Keller, Greg Biffle, and Kevin Grubb. And then back at 6th place, Jeff Bodine.
Mike, I was watching that car go around there a little while ago, and I think earlier on, he got in the back, I believe, of the 74 car, Chad Little. And I noticed what appears to be a hole in the right front headlight door, and if it's so, it's probably hurting that car just a little bit as far as the downforce. We talk about downforce so much that having that big hole there can affect the way this car handles going in the corner as well as coming off the corner.
And that definitely looks like a very big hole in that headlight door. Yes, I mean, that'll kill the front downforce on the car.
I'm really surprised that on that last caution it didn't bring him in and try to repair it, because obviously he's got a very competitive race car. When he gets back on track with the rest of these guys, you know, don't count Jeffrey Bodine out.
These cars have steel bodies, much like their street counterparts, but the front and rear, the caps, the end caps, if you will, the nose and the tail are a fiberglass type material, and that's why the right front of Jeff's car looks shredded like that.
Pretty much these race cars, they use a stock hood, stock roof, and stock deck lid. The sides are pretty much fabricated pieces by the fabricators, and as you say, a fiberglass or carbon fiber rear and tail.
And all that right there is mandated by NASCAR.
Are they allowed carbon fiber? I thought that was unobtainium.
We're going to the next subject. I thought Darrell was in Tennessee. He's explaining something to you, Mike.
Let's see what the producer's telling us. Let's go back through the field here.
Okay.
The one thing I have noticed, it seems like Jeff Green has been able to keep that distance between he and Kevin Harvick a lot more consistent on this run than ever before so far today.
He's not really gaining, but he's not really losing.
Like he's very content to sit there and ride and see how things go, because we still have a long ways to go, Larry. We haven't reached halfway yet.
Halfway will be at 125 laps, 125 miles. And with 85 to 90 laps of pit stop, still a ways from deciding the strategy that will decide this race. But there you saw the gap first to second on Jeff Green, and it has not reached 0.7 of a second. Well, let's go to pit road, to the pit of the second place car.
Greg Pollux owns the car that's driven by Jeff Green and also by Jason Keller. Last year they finished first and second in points. Right now they're running in second and third. How do you do that?
Well, first of all, you got to have great equipment. We don't spare any expense to make sure the guys have the right stuff. Everything's identical, and we got great people, and we do the best we can to take care of them week in, week out.
And they got a good leader, too, in Greg Pollux. Mike? I tell you, they've got another good leader, and that's Harold Holly, the crew chief. And I talked to Harold yesterday just to show you how competitive race teams are. He said, Larry, this is the car that we ran at Loudon and Nazareth. And I got to looking last night. They ran 4th and 3rd at those two races. They were not happy with the way that car performed. Cut the body completely off this race car, rebodied it, and here they are running second, a strong second, with a rebodied car that's already had 2 top 5s here at Milwaukee today.
Now, last year, Green set on the pole, led 210 laps and won, but that was in a Chevrolet. They changed makes in the offseason for both these cars, and so I had that to wrestle with as well.
And I did ask him, I said, is this the chassis that you did this with last year? And he said, no, this was a brand new car this year. They rebodied a lot of the Chevrolet. The chassis are all the same. They rebodied a lot of them, but this was a new car this year.
Tony Raines now up on the back bumper of Rich Bickle. After pit stops, they are now racing for 11th and 12th.
Tony Raines in a 33 car. This is a group that just keeps getting stronger as the year goes on. And this is actually the car that he sat on the pole with at Nazareth and finished 6th, and also finished 2nd at Richmond. And it just seems like as this year has went on, they've just gotten stronger and stronger.
I was speaking to Bill Bumgarner this morning during the driver's meeting. He's so proud of what's going on with his teams right now. He owns both the 33 car, Tony Raines, and Chad Little's car. He said both these teams are finally starting to kind of get back in their own. But he said Tony's group have really made strides. I mean, just leaps and bounds, and gotten him up in a position where he can win a race.
Jeff Purvis pulled in there right behind them. Raines trying to complete the pass here from Bickle and move on. Now you're watching from the MBNA cam on board of Jeff Purvis.
Again, as we heard Jeff Purvis at the top of the show, said this will probably be his last race in the Joe Gibbs car if they do not secure another sponsorship before Watkins Glen. But he will be competing in the James Finch car, who filled the car here for Joe Ruttman. He will be in the Winston Cup car next week at Daytona.
And he got Bickle loosened up there in the middle of the corner. And Purvis moves under Bickle. Brad Baker was slow down in 1 and 2, but he's got his rhythm back and continues.
And Mike, I was watching it right here. He, just a few laps ago, we're talking about Brad Baker, kind of held up the leader, Kevin Harvick. If you'll notice, Jeff Green has closed right up on the back of Kevin Harvick because of it.
It's really funny how much can change based on things that are not of your doing. A lap car in the way, your lead goes away. Has nothing to do with how well you're running, but it's other circumstances.
And you take a racetrack here where there's not a lot of grooves of racing, so important, and you can't really dictate it, but so important where you catch that lap traffic. I tell you, we got a race here, guys, and we're just 2 laps past halfway, coming to lap 127. Jeff Green in the 10 car, all over the back of Kevin Harvick's 2 car.
Mike, you're talking about that, and you've got some driving experience. You understand what's going on as Jeff Green looks at the outside of the 2 car. But as you catch a slow car like that, you've got to be thinking and anticipating, what is he going to do? What is he going to do? So automatically your foot kind of comes up the throttle. As we said, Jeff Green goes to the outside and passes Kevin Harvick.
And Jeff, his car is so strong on the outside right here, he's going to take the lead off turn 4. We got a new leader coming to the start-finish line.
First on-track change of lead today.
We said earlier, look for that outside groove to come in, and it's starting to come, and Jeff Green has now made the first positive move on the outside.
Harvick settles in second place. Dick?
Well, when you were a kid and when you were in school, didn't you ever one time put a piece of tape on somebody's back with a little note? Pace car parked right behind Kevin Harvick's pit. And look at what they put on the back of the pace car.
Kevin rules.
He has seen that rear bumper a lot this year.
Yes, he has.
Leading under caution.
I think he leads the league in laps led. Jeff Green, 9 top 5s, 2 wins. Looking for 3 today. Still a lot of racing to go in the GNC Live Well 250 and pit stops coming. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Milwaukee Mile, 134 laps, just past halfway in the GNC Live Well 250. Jeff Green, the leader of the race, slips up a little high there to hold that 0.3 of a second advantage over Kevin Harvick. Harvick has led the most laps this year going into this race, but Bissell has led the most miles and led the most times.
Got my crew chief buddy up here. Jeff, I see you smoking over there with that calculator. I believe you're working on a little strategy here.
Larry, with most of the leaders pitting on lap 55, and even with the other caution, these guys really need to try to get to lap 150 if they want to make one stop and make the rest of the way in. So some of these teams, it's going to be really interesting who tries to push the envelope and make it to there.
Let's get a little pit strategy from Steve.
Well, guys, Kevin Grubb may be one of those guys that can stretch it in that number 37 car. They are scheduling their pit stop for lap 155. And by the way, their crew chief, Terry Shirley, is celebrating his 51st birthday to Dick Berggren.
And Kevin Harvick's crew says that they can go all the way to lap 160 before they need to pay a pit stop. The car right now is a little bit too tight in the center. They adjusted the wrong way on the pit stop. Mike?
160, that is a stretch.
If they can go to 160, and that's what everybody's out there trying to figure right now. It's not so much where we need to pit next time, it's can we do it and make it on one more stop should this race stay green. But I'd say anybody that can go past about lap 153 or 154, they could definitely do it on that one stop.
Exactly. I mean, that's what you've got to try to do. This is the time where you got to kind of like sit up there and realize that, hey, I've got to suck it up. Driver, you got to take care of that race car and stay off the throttle as much as you can and get it to lap 153 so we can make it on one more stop.
But there's so many things that goes into figuring fuel mileage. And if I'm Todd Berrier, what I've got to think about, his race car was a little loose the first run. You'll get better fuel mileage if your car's pushing, and he's complaining about being tight and pushing right now. The car bogs down more in the middle of the corner, and you'll use more fuel with the car pushing than you will with one that's loose.
The gap stays constant. Jeff Green, Kevin Harvick, 0.4 of a second. A look at Harvick's pit, and we'll come back for some of those pit stops in a moment. 250, 2 of our leaders, second and third place, Kevin Harvick and Jason Keller, have come to pit road. Dick Berggren.
Well, it's a bit early, and they had also planned to let Harvick stay out longer than he is staying out, but Harvick has got a bad push in the car, and he wanted to come in and get the thing squared away. 57 Keller in about 20 laps earlier than the 10 car said they could go. His teammate, Jeff Green. It's going to be a 4-tire change for both teams. 2-car Harvick substitute tire changer in the back. Mike Kluka substituting for Gary Burkhardt, and there they both go.
Jamie McMurray's in, and so is Kenny Wallace. The green flag pit stops continue.
And the reason Mike Kluka is substituting for Greg Burkhardt was married this weekend. Mike Kluka normally changes tires on Harvick's Winston Cup car.
Tony Raines is in as well. And the pit board's out for Greg Biffle. Steve.
Right side tires going on for the 33 of Tony Raines. Service done to the right side. Gas also going in. Left side tires off. The 33 of Michael Catlis's team. Looks like a pretty decent stop for the 33 of Tony Raines. No chassis adjustments. Dick?
Now here comes Greg Biffle. He has had trouble with the chassis of that car all day long. He came into the pits, however, on the 10 car, came in a little bit earlier out of gas. Right now, Biffle's crew is going to try to adjust that car. He has complained all day long about this thing pushing, which is the characteristic of this racetrack. You go up and down pit road and talk to people about what it's like to run here, and they say push, push, push. And right now, Biffle has just taken 4.
Here's Jeff Green in the pit lane as well.
this is a pretty good sign that none of our leaders can make it on one more stop. They're going to come up a few laps short, I believe, Jeff, at the end of this thing.
Steve?
Service done to the right side of that number 10 car. Left side tires going on. Looks like they made a chassis adjustment to the left side, rear corner, Mike. Left side tires going on. A little bit of a problem now. He stalled the car out. They push it. Still haven't gotten it fired. Losing valuable time on pit road. Jeff Green still can't get it going.
No, I believe they were out of gas.
Yeah, they were squirting ether down in the cowl area to the air cleaner to make that motor want to try to crank.
And it still won't crank. And they're out of pit lane to push that car. There it goes.
Refires finally. It was so lucky it fired. They could not push it no further. They was going to have to push it back, Dick Bergman. Well, they had a problem with the starter in the number 10 car. As right now, Mike Skinner has pitted. 21 car. He has run very, very well with his automobile. Keeps looking for a win in this thing. 19.1 second, a bit of a slower pit stop. Steve.
Kevin Grubb comes in. He's going to get 4 tires. They're also going to put 2 rounds of fight in to Kevin Grubb's car. Right side tires going on. There's 2 rounds of fight. It comes to the left side of the car. Kyle Pillman on the front tires. Ken Christensen on the rear tires. Tires going on now. Service is done for Kevin Grubb.
Matt Kenseth also completes a 4-tire change as green flag pit stops continue to cycle through.
Right now, Elton Sawyer in the 98 car, he's inherited the lead, and we're getting up there to lap 150. I would say any of these cars go 2 or 3 more laps, they definitely would be able to do it on this final pit stop.
We talk about how important it was as far as the car running out of fuel. If you notice, Jeff Green was leading. Now, he's only 4 seconds from getting lapped.
Wow, and here's Sawyer on pit road.
Steve Burns, Elton Sawyer's coming your way.
Yeah, Ricky Byers' crew, they are ready. Elton Sawyer's having a good day here at the Milwaukee Mile. Right side tires going on or coming off. The jack goes in. Elton Sawyer. No chassis adjustment to the 98 that we can see. 1 can of gas is in now. The second one goes in. Left side tires going on. Running the Wisconsin Badger colors on that number 98 car. 19.4 seconds.
David Green picked up the lead, but now he's on pit road along with Jimmy Johnson. David's younger brother Mark spotting for him today.
And the 92 car is out of gas. They're trying to push him down pit road through firing.
And Jeff Purvis picks up the lead. As we cycle through stops, David Green's going to get 4 tires.
And I would say if there's a car that can stretch the fuel mileage, we've seen it in California a few months ago. Jeff Purvis in that 18 car ran second on fuel mileage, and I'd say he can do it. Steve Burns, what's going on with David Green's car?
No chassis adjustments for David Green, Larry. They just put 4 tires on, put gas on it. His brother Mark Green is spotting today for David Green, former series champion.
Finally, Jimmy Johnson gets running. That's the second car that was pushed along out of gas.
And Jeff, I've been a part of pushing those cars down pit road, and it'll wear you out.
They can tell me those things weigh 3,400 pounds or 3,300 pounds. They feel like they weigh 3 tons when you're trying to roll them down pit road.
One of his crewmen got a pretty good headache. Kind of went turned turtle as the car finally caught and took off while he was pushing it. So Jeff Purvis, wouldn't it be something if Purvis would win this race and lose his ride all in the same 24-hour period?
Been a lot of pressure on somebody at that point in time. I'm glad I'm not a part of that decision-making process.
Well, my understanding with talking with some of the folks there at Joe Gibbs Racing is that if they do make the decision to shut down after this race, that would free Purvis up to run the 4th of July race at Daytona with James Finch and Winston Cup. Not that there's a hesitation to make that decision.
See this crewman right here. He's running to catch a can. Oh, and down he goes. He was trying to catch a can of ether because they couldn't get the car to refire. He was trying to get one from one of the other teams. He missed the pass. You can see he went face first on pit road.
Jeff Purvis is still leading this race. We just passed lap 156. That's 101 laps on this tank of fuel. Now, there was 5 or 6 caution laps in the beginning, but he can definitely make it to the end should he pit right now.
Has Hank Parker Jr. stopped?
No.
Guess who else is great at gas mileage?
Yeah, Jeff Purvis finished second at Fontana on fuel mileage. Hank Parker Jr. won the race at California on fuel mileage.
one of the guys that we talked about earlier was Rich Bickle, and right now Rich Bickle and Ron Hornaday both have made a stop back on the 89 lap, so they're definitely in a window where they can make it go the rest of the distance.
Big gap, 2.4 seconds from Purvis back to Ron Hornaday, second place car. And here Richard Bickle goes way up the racetrack, way up into the dust there, the third place car.
Now, the reason he's running third, he's off sequence on pit stops. Right. He was on pit road on our last caution at lap 90, so the way I figured he can run to about lap 175 or 180 on fuel.
All right, Purvis will come to pit road. That will leave Hornaday, Bickle, Parker, Chad Little out on the racetrack. Steve?
Shane Westenberg and David Hansen are the tire changes. They will make a chassis adjustment. 2 turns on the right corner. Also, they will make a chassis adjustment on the left side. 1 can of gas is in. Left side tires going on. They make the chassis adjustment. Got all the gas in there they could get in. Dick?
Well, Hank Parker Jr.'s crew thought he was going to go a whole lot further than he has gone. Damage to the left side of this automobile. Parker's only win was that big day in California early in the springtime. Right now, they got the 4 tires ready to go. Right sides are all done. Left side's going on. Crew chief Mark Tudor in charge of this operation. And Parker's gone.
But I definitely think he went far enough that he could make this on one more stop.
And Larry, one other thing is we always talk about is you don't want to sit out there on old tires if you don't have to. You get on and get some fresh tires and keep up with what's going on. It's going to be better off in the long run.
There's no question. I mean, certainly what they were hoping for is to get a caution to burn all these guys that's been pitting under green, but you do it so long, you're giving up so much time, it's time to get to pit road, especially once you get in that fuel window.
Now, with 90 laps to go, is he done?
He's got what he's got would be my words.
So he's done with pit stops.
Unless we get a caution later on in this race. That's when you tell him to stay off that button. You got what you got, buddy. We're going to the end.
All right. Ron Hornaday, in an off weekend from Winston Cup, has picked up the lead over Bickle. Kelly Denton is up to third in the GNC Live Well 250 on FX. Welcome back to Milwaukee, where Ron Hornaday is extending his lead. It's 9.5 seconds with 165 laps complete. He'll be pitting in about 10 laps, we're told.
And, you know, Jeff and I have been sitting there kind of wondering, you know, why don't you get to pit road, get those 4 fresh tires? But Harvick's, and again, I'm going to use Harvick as the benchmark. He's a good benchmark to use. He's running the same speed as Kevin Harvick right now. Now, Harvick's having to work a little bit of traffic, but the method to the madness right here is trying to catch a caution, and there will only be 11 cars on the lead lap should he catch a caution.
And I'm sure that's probably what they're thinking, but the other thing I would be concerned about is, since they have a restriction as far as the tires are concerned, I would want to take advantage of getting 4 tires under green, so I'd have a few extra ones left in case we do catch a caution and I need to use them.
Well, a career day for Kelly Denton, up here running in third place, again, partly due to the pit sequencing, but also he's had a very strong car despite starting midfield here.
But once again, he could be one of the benefactors should a caution come out. He would be one of only 11 cars on the lead lap. And if you've got a car that's not performing very good, definitely stay out there and run it until it runs out of gas. Hopefully you can catch that caution.
These guys right here on pit road, in my opinion, are some of the best poker players there are. They sit there, they figure a lot of things out, and they're always wanting to see who's going to flinch first so they can take advantage of it.
And I've never envied a Busch National crew chief. When we were Winston Cup crew chiefs, you had one theory. The yellow flag flies, you change 4 tires.
These guys on the pit road,
have
exactly
3 steps to run 250 laps.
You can't let tires fix your problem in this division. You got to fix your car.
Hornaday will drive 3 races for this team. They started the season with rookie driver Marty Houston, who is still employed by the team. But again, they wanted to get a veteran in there just to help the team's performance and get some really good feedback. So Hornaday is also scheduled to run Watkins Glen in Chicago for Armando Fitz in this number 11 car. All right, Kevin Harvick underneath Jamie McMurray, who's a lap down, and then he's moving in on Kelly Denton, the third place car.
And again, this battle's about 15 seconds behind leader Ron Hornaday, but Harvick has made his pit stop. But remember, we almost know Kevin Harvick will have to make a late race pit stop, probably just for a splash of fuel.
And we can see right now Rich Bickle's on pit road.
Harvick right on pace with the race leader, so Hornaday's not giving anything up by staying out, it appears. And Rich Bickle is, I believe he is one of the 2 or 3 last cars to pit in this green flag sequence.
And the reason being, they were on pit road a later caution than Kevin Harvick, Greg Biffle, Jeff Green, all those guys. They were on pit road at lap 89. So this is pretty much a scheduled stop, but like a lot of the other guys, you can go the distance from here.
And watching that pit stop, the car, Rich Bickle still must be a little bit tight, I know, from taking some wedge out of the left rear during that pit stop.
Bickle, a strong day in front of a hometown crowd. And Tim Fedowa has gone back to the garage area. Remember, he was involved in a crash quite early in the race, getting in the back of Ashton Lewis after the 94 of Bill Hoff spun. Fedowa worked his way up to 31st and is now back to the garage.
A couple other guys who had trouble early on as far as Ashton Lewis and Scott Wimmer. They've effected repairs to their cars and returned to the race.
Jeff Bodine working over the 17 of Matt Kenseth. This view from the Visine onboard camera.
You know, Jeff, I believe a lot of those changes that Matt Kenseth and those guys made this morning, I believe this race car is a lot better than it was in happy hour.
I was surprised whenever he said to me, he said, my car right now is not going to be good enough to run in the top 10. And the changes that they've made have put him in a position, I think, where he can better on that as just go through the rest of these rest of the race.
Well, Tony Raines had a shot to get a lap back as Ron Hornaday had to deal with a slower lap car, that of Joe Busch.
But that's something Ron Hornaday, he can't do right now. He can't fight these guys on pressure tires. Let them go. They're faster. They've got about 80 to 90 lap pressure tires. Let them go. I got to believe Ron Hornaday, he's going to be on pit road here in the next lap or two. Chad Little in the 74 car, another car that had pitted on lap 89, he's on pit road.
David Donahue also making a stop in the Marines car, and the leader is in. Hornaday comes in as Chad Little gets serviced. Here's your race leader, Steve.
Ron Hornaday was having trouble just seconds ago locating his pit stall. Fred Graves also acting as a consultant to this team in addition to getting Hornaday's help. Right side tires going on. He said that he had been getting a little bit loose, so they're going to make an air pressure adjustment to this number 11 car of Ron Hornaday. Left side tires going on for Hornaday, and he is away 15.4 seconds.
You know, the racetrack, what I'm seeing, the rubber's getting laid down, and it's getting tighter and tighter and tighter. We see a lot of teams, we've heard a lot of teams talking about taking wedge out of their cars. One more time, we want to show you at home a visual of what taking wedge out actually means through looking through it here on pit road here. Here's our animation car coming in. This is under a pit stop, and you've got jack boats on 4 corners. And what they're doing, they're taking wedge out of the left rear over here. See the wedge wrench? It's going to go counterclockwise, and that's actually taking weight off that spring and weight off the right front spring. It's putting weight on the left front and the right rear. That will help the car to turn when you take weight off that left rear and that right front. And each turn is equivalent to about 10 pounds off of those opposing wheels.
Well, all we're trying to do is get all 4 tires working together or better than what they are at the present time when the car does come in.
And now we're back to where 3 of the first 4 drivers are right where we started. Harvick, Biffle, and Jason Keller.
But just remember, guys, right now, should we stay green, they will probably have to make a late race, green flag stop, if nothing else, for a splash of fuel.
72 laps to go in the GNC Live Well 250. Kevin Harvick back out front. Welcome back to Milwaukee. 182 laps down on the GNC Live Well 250. Harvick, Biffle, and Keller are your front 3. And it's interesting to see how this race plays out and what will happen to drivers like Jeff Purvis and Ron Hornaday, who stayed out. Now here is Hornaday up in turn 3. As we widen out, you'll see Jeff Purvis come into the frame, not too far behind Hornaday. They both recently made pit stops under green. But the leader, Kevin Harvick, is not that far behind him now.
A little over 4 seconds, but Ron Hornaday, Jeff Purvis, they've got an agenda right now. Yeah, they're racing each other, but what they want to see, they know Kevin Harvick will have to be back on pit road for gas. They want this thing to stay green.
even if it doesn't go green, if caution comes out right now, Ron Hornaday and those guys are going to wind up leading this race too, Larry. So there's a lot of things that could happen right here. But again, if we could see this thing go green, we may see an upset today.
Now, they maybe wouldn't mind seeing a caution as long as they're in front of Harvick, but once Harvick goes by them and should happen to put them a lap down, then they definitely don't want to see a caution.
Definitely do not want to see that. But I'm going to remind you one more time, and you've said it before, don't say somebody can't make it, because that's as soon as they'll jump up here and they'll go the distance on you. And that includes Kevin Harvick.
Darrell pretty much taught me early in the year not to say never in this business.
Speaking of going the distance, the question I answered most this morning down in the pits and garage among the fans was, where's DW? And he's getting ready for the Goodwood Festival of Speed in England. But the other one is, what are the Fox guys going to do the second half of the season? Larry?
Well, I'm going to go do a consultant job with Petty Enterprises, in particular the 44 car, the Georgia Pacific Buckshot Jones car. And you know, there's 2 or 3 reasons behind this. Hopefully, one of the strengths of our broadcast this year has been the fact that Jeff Hammond, Darrell Waltrip, and Larry McReynolds, we just stepped off pit road in November. If you're in this sport every day, you can't keep up with it. If you're sitting at home, you're not. And our plan is to come back in February, and we're going to be bigger, and we're going to be better, and we're going to continue to show you fans things that you've not seen even this year. So, and hopefully I can help Petty Enterprises in the 44 car.
Jeff, where will you be?
Right now, Mike, I'm probably going to go ahead and do a little bit of work with Roush Racing again. Jack has asked me to come and maybe do some product representation as far as his race cars, his engines are concerned, and some of the many things that his company as a whole can make and sell to a lot of the racers, not just, you know, the upper teams, but a lot of the Busch and the ARCA teams around the country, and to let them know that they've got someone that's going to be in the garage area working with them hand in hand, and that's going to be me. And at the same time, Jack said, hey, if you can get you an opportunity to do some consulting work with a Busch team or a truck team, which I have been offered, I'll probably be in the pits calling some races.
Well, despite published reports, folks, DW is not looking for a ride for the second half of the season, but he did say that if, say, a Jeff Gordon or someone needed a relief driver, he'd consider it. I don't know if Stevie would, but Darrell said he would consider it.
But I don't think old DW wouldn't mind doing a little bit of testing with some race teams. In fact, he was actually going to do some testing with Stacy Compton and the Melling team at Chicago Speedway a few weeks ago. Unfortunately, they got rained out for both days.
Hopefully he'll have another shot at it.
I can say one thing, and you were there the other day when he got in the car at Sears Point driving the Roush Mustangs around there, because you did the same thing too, and I have to admit, both you guys look like a couple of kids just running around.
I think climbing in that car took about 15 years off of Darrell right there, just hopping in. Here's Mike McLaughlin, damaged from the earlier crash, and he fits in front of Steve.
Yeah, Mike, remember, he crashed on lap 88 with Bobby Hamilton Jr. and Jay Sauter, and he lost a lap but made it back when all the other leaders pitted. So Mike McLaughlin's back on pit road, and he'll likely lose a lap here because they're going to change 4 tires. They also made a chassis adjustment. Mike McLaughlin, 15.3 seconds.
That's a good stop for those guys. He was definitely one of the cars that would have loved to have seen a caution. Yeah, he was still on the lead lap running in 10th place, but had to come to pit road for 4 tires and fuel.
Yes, he is, Larry. And one of the things I was watching just a second ago, the guy who's running right now in 15th position, Kenny Wallace, has been able to hold off the leader, Kevin Harvick, from back there. Again, we talk about people being out of sequence. Kenny's a little bit out of sequence with the rest of the guys, and he's trying to hold them off.
So Wallace trying to stay on the lead lap in front of Kevin Harvick. Of course, Steve Burns will have Totally NASCAR for you every weeknight all through the summer. That continues on all season on the Fox family of networks. Kenny Wallace has just gone a lap down, 55 to go in the GNC Live Well 250 on the Milwaukee Mile, which will get a facelift and renovation next season with a brand new grandstand.
And we talked about a car that would love to see a caution. Just remember, before the last green flag stops, Jeff Green in the 10 car, he was right there with Kevin Harvick. Was out of gas on pit road. They could not get the car refired, was having starter problems. Now he's 21 seconds behind, right at 20 seconds. The last time I looked, he's faster than Kevin Harvick, especially while Harvick is working traffic, but he's only 10 seconds in front of Harvick. He desperately has to have a caution flag to get back in this race.
The other car that needed a caution was Kelly Denton, who's done such a great job today, and they have made a pit stop under green and now fallen off the lead lap, though still in the top 20.
And you can't say enough about that group right there as far as Kelly Denson is concerned. Because if you think about it, Mike, they actually kind of started this team about the California race, and they've gotten stronger each week. Had a great run in Kentucky, and had a good one going here today.
This is, I would say, the best that team has performed all season. And they were a lead lap contender until just making that pit stop with about 54 laps to go.
But there's no reason he can't get back on the lead lap. We know he can go the distance, and a lot of those leaders have to come to pit road late in the race. And again, all these circumstances, should the race go green, then he would obviously be back on the lead lap.
Second place battle, 2 seconds behind the leader, Greg Biffle, and the 57 of Jason Keller. Here's Dick.
Biffle has an interesting problem, Mike. Edgar Alvin this morning, the engine builder, told me that this is the best motor that they have got. He built this engine so that it would have lots and lots of torque down low. So that means when Biffle picks up the throttle, there ought to be a ton of forward motion on that race car. But the problem they're faced with is that the car is tight in the center and it's tight off, so he can't use all of that power. In fact, Biffle a few moments ago came on the radio and said it's so tight he can't, well, I can't say that word on the television, drive it.
Or as Darrell would say, pushing like a dump truck.
Oh, Lord, there we go. You won't leave it alone, will you, Mike?
No. And, you know, we actually seen a dump truck on the racetrack at Sonoma during
That's right.
We wanted to get tape of it where we could show it to Darrell. Here's a dump truck now.
That would have made his day.
Kevin Harvick has led the most laps today, locked up those 5-point bonus points, and now there's Purvis, one of the cars that can make it on fuel, but just in front of the leader, Kevin Harvick, and there's one of the others, Ron Hornaday. We also think that Elton Sawyer and David Green have a chance of completing this race without another stop, but they've got to stay on the lead lap. Steve?
Well, Mike, I can update you on a couple of those cars you just talked about. The 34 of David Green, they don't know if they can make it, but they're going to try. The 11 of Ron Hornaday, they're not sure either. Now, the 18 car, Jeff Purvis, they say they can. Dick?
Jeff Green in the 10 car definitely cannot make it. They are going to have to repit. And the number 2, Harvick, is 10 laps short. He is also going to need another pit stop.
And these guys, they won't need to be in their pits probably over about 2 seconds just for a splash of gas. But the problem is the length of pit road maintaining 35 miles an hour.
Right now, it's a great strategy for those two if the caution comes out. If it doesn't, maybe not.
That's what racing's all about.
That's why we stay tuned to the finish. 48 laps to go in the GNC Live Well 250. Welcome back to Milwaukee, where 43 laps remain. GNC Live Well 250. Kevin Harvick, Jason Keller, Greg Biffle. 3 of the top 4 starters in the top 3 spots. The other, Jeff Green, sits in 6th, but has to make another pit stop. So quite a game of Hold'em here, you know, that's going on down along pit road. And it will pretty much all turn on not the next card drawn, but whether or not there's another caution
So
flag.
that's going to be the whole key. You've got 2 completely separate races or agendas going on up there. You got Kevin Harvick, Jason Keller, Greg Biffle, Mike Skinner, Kevin Grubb, Jeff Green, Tony Raines, probably Matt Kenseth, Jeff Bodine, Elton Sawyer, that's saying, we're racing here. We hope we get a caution. If not, we're going to have to come to pit road for a splash of gas. Then you step into the next race, which is probably Ron Hornaday, David Green, and Jeff Purvis in particular, that says, we're just going to see this thing go green and see what shakes out.
And you got some crew chiefs right now that are really getting on this radio, talking to some of those drivers about trying to stretch fuel. And it is going to be close.
And I believe of the cars that it's not going to be close as 18 Jeff Purvis. I think that they do know they can go the distance.
You're riding with Purvis. Picking up the throttle off the corner, off turn 2, just ahead, Randy LaJoy. And ahead of him, Kevin Harvick. Underneath, Mike McLaughlin. Going to put Mike 2 laps down. Ashton Lewis has gone back to the garage area, second time, or actually the first time to the garage. He's out for the day after crash damage. They got back on track for a while, picked up a couple of spots, but they are done for the day. Matt Kenseth, now that's the one car on the lead lap. One of the cars we were kind of questioning whether he could make it or not. Steve?
Well, Mike, they tell me here in the pits, they stopped on lap 150, but they're going to try and make it 100 laps. They're going to try and stretch it.
That must be why the fueler's walking back and forth nervously, still all in his gear and with gas can at the ready. So we'll see as it all plays out here in Milwaukee. 216 laps complete, and none of these three cars that lead, Harvick, Keller, or Biffle, do we feel can make it to the finish without another pit stop. We saw Jimmy Johnson, their 92, slow in the back stretch, and now coming around the front straightaway, off pace.
He's been running well off the pace for about the last 2 or 3 laps right now, so I'm not exactly what's going on with him. This is a hard racetrack to stay out of the way because, you know, you want to run around the bottom, and that's where the groove of the racetrack is.
And Larry, we talked a little bit earlier about how gear selection was going to be so important today. There's been a big variety of gears, some low, some tall gears. And my understanding, the 92 car was going to pull a pretty aggressive gear, and it looked like it may have broken a valve spring or dropped the valve, which has probably affected his performance.
And what you know here, because these straightaways are so long, when you turn all those RPMs, it's not like a Martinsville where it runs up there and turns 9,000 for about a half a second. These get up there and they just hang. It's a hanging RPM. That's hard on valve trains.
Cannot believe the amount of harmonics when we talk about that. That's the vibration of these valve trains, rods, and the whole engine feels when you turn it almost 9,000 RPM down this long straightaway.
Chad Little moving in there, the 20th place car. Going by Johnson. Harvick now with a 1.3-second lead on Jason Keller. Greg Biffle, another 1.6 seconds back, and then it's a long gap back to Mike Skinner, another 6 seconds.
And what Kevin Harvick and that group would try to be doing right now, they would try to run as fast as they can. They know they're going to have to stop for fuel, but what they want to do is put as much real estate on the Ron Hornadays, the Jeff Purvises. Maybe they can get to pit road, get that splash of gas, and still beat those guys out. That's one reason he's going to try to just put as many cars a lap down as he can, try to make up as much ground as he can. But he's fighting some heavy traffic right now.
Around Brad Baker. LaJoy still nipping at his heels, trying to get back one of those 3 laps. Whoa, Randy.
Won't do it that way.
Up there, nope. Now David Green just ahead. Green is one of those cars that might be able to make it. He's the 12th place car, number 34. Trying hard to stay on the lead lap right here.
Along with Ron Hornaday in the 11 car right there. They're both trying to stay on the lead lap. That's the 11th and 12th place cars.
And just ahead of them, Elton Sawyer on the racetrack. There's the 10th place car. So all 3 of those have a lot at stake right here. Trying to keep Kevin Harvick from putting them a lap down.
And they'd love to see a caution to stay on the lead lap. They'd hate to see a caution because they know Kevin Harvick's going to have to pit here shortly.
When will the leaders pit? That's the big question with 30 laps to go in the GNC Live Well 250. More to go on the GNC Live Well 250, and some of these long-distance runners don't have quite as long legs as they thought they did. Kenny Wallace gets gas and right-side tires, and Tony Raines was just in for a splash of 76 Racing Fuel. So Kevin Harvick, meanwhile, moved David Green out of the way to put Green a lap down, because look, there's 57 Keller right up on him for the lead. So it's like Kevin says, David, we got to go here.
David Green, look at the right side. Oh, a little bit of...
Oh, there's a wave.
Yeah, he was a busy man in there.
Yeah, he was waving out the window to Harvick. But the big question, Dick Berggren, is can Kevin Harvick go all the way?
No, he cannot, and neither can the 10 car. They're getting ready to pit. Jeff Green, who had led laps earlier in this event, crew is ready to go. They're ready not just with fuel, they're also ready with tires, Mike.
Wow. Here's Green. That will leave Jason Keller on the speedway, who we also believe has to stop. Let's go back to Dick.
Well, they've changed their minds. Now this is going to be a gas-only stop for Jeff Green. It's just going to be a splash of gas to get him going. There it goes, into the tail end of the car, round a wedge. Boy, more than a splash, I'm surprised. That was a surprisingly long pit stop, given that they've only got 31 laps to go. Yeah, I mean, they were there for 5.5 seconds. Guys, all you need is about 3 seconds there getting that fuel, because what you got to remember, chain reaction. I'm the crew chief. I'm on there saying go, go, go. While you're saying go, 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 they're still dumping fuel in there.
Exactly, and you always have the gas man let him know that, hey, run with the car. Run with the car. That way you can pick up that extra little bit of momentum, get the car rolling sooner, and you're still getting gas in the car.
Hey, you get half a gallon in the car, you get another 3 laps. I mean, sure. Now it's Ron Hornaday who's right out in the front of Harvick.
Bill's trying to stay on the lead lap. He's in 9th position right now.
Even if he goes a lap down, if he can stay close up on Harvick and the caution does come out, Harvick might let him get that lap back. Now Jason Keller has come to pit road. That's the 3rd place car. That will elevate Mike Skinner in the standings. So here's Keller coming in for that last splash, and here's Dick.
First gear, 4,000 RPM, 35 miles an hour as Jason Keller comes down pit road. Fuel man Bill Kennedy, he's the only one with real responsibility here. Did not get off the wall as quickly as he might. Fuel still going into Keller's car, and he is gone. 5 flat. Again, 5.5 seconds. They're just staying there a lot longer than I think they really need to be there. Kevin Harvick, they've seen what these guys have done now. If he can get there and spend about 3 seconds is all he needs, then he can flat beat these guys because of time spent on pit road.
Now Keller's stop took him off the lead lap. Keller's stop dropped him to 6th place. Green's stop dropped him off the lead lap to 13th.
And he was a lot further behind. Obviously,
right.
Jason Keller was right behind Kevin Harvick. Jeff Green was about 18 or 19 seconds behind.
So we would guess that if Harvick pits, he'll come back on the track probably in 5th place or so. And that would move Biffle up. Biffle, Skinner, Kenseth, and Kevin Grubb.
One other thing we need to think about here, some of these guys are making chassis adjustments, so if they can make the car a little bit better, that could factor in. Or if they go the wrong way or too much, it could hurt them as far as the end of this race.
And that's part of what
Kevin Harvick's coming to pit road.
That's part of what took Keller's stop so long, as they did make a chassis adjustment in the right rear. Well, the die is cast. Kevin Harvick does not catch a caution. He has to come in for a late race splash of gas. He gives up the lead to Greg Biffle, and he's headed for Dick Berggren.
And his crew chief, Todd Berrier, has told him, give it all you can down pit road, but don't stall it. So, fuel only for Kevin Harvick. Larry Harvick, wow, that was a quick one. 3.4 seconds. That's all it took Harvick. That 16 laps, you can figure that's about 4 gallons of gas. They was there in plenty of time. That's all they needed to be there.
And a chassis adjustment on the left rear.
Go on and try to make your car better.
And that's exactly what we're talking about. If he wants to have a chance to win this race, he had to get down pit road as fast as he could without getting caught speeding. But making that stop and getting back off pit road is going to be paramount if he wants to have an opportunity to win this race.
He is now the 5th place car. It's Biffle, Skinner, Kenseth, and Grubb. So he comes out right where we figured, in 5th place. Now, 15 laps to go. He's 24 seconds off the lead. Now it's a question of who has to stop and who's going to drop.
Well, obviously, yeah, it's going to be between Greg Biffle, who's leading our race right now, Mike Skinner in the 21, which we got to believe Mike Skinner in the 21. I feel like that was his teammate that just hit it with 16 laps to go. You got to believe with similar engine combinations, he could not run 16 laps further, or Matt Kenseth, or Kevin Grubb. Then we pick back up with Kevin Harvick.
So if the front 4 have to pit, Harvick wins. And if they don't, if one of them doesn't,
and that's all it takes is one.
Could be a new sheriff in town. Laps winding down. 13 to go. This has really become an economy run for 4 cars.
Now let's talk about Mike Skinner in the 21 car right here again as we see Greg Biffle, who's still leading the race. Remember, you got 2 agendas with Kevin Harvick and Mike Skinner. Kevin Harvick, they've got to be conservative. They're the points leader of the Busch Grand National Series. Mike Skinner, even though the 21 car is running all the races, Mike Skinner is not running all the races. In fact, Robbie Gordon will drive this car next week in Watkins Glen. Can gamble a lot more than Kevin Harvick. I just don't know if I would want to gamble 16 laps worth, Jeff.
But, you know, we've talked about it before. If you know your race car, there may be something going on here that they've started way back. Started talking about since the last pit stop, Mike, stay off the throttle, feather the throttle, take care of your race car, and we can make it home. All or nothing. I mean, when you've got an opportunity to win a race, sometimes that's worth taking a gamble.
Jamie McMurray comes in for gas and go. He is not a lead lap car, 16th. But time is winding down, and so is the fuel supply, Steve.
Yeah, but Mike, I tell you something. They're very confident down here in the number 17 pit of Matt Kenseth. They think they have fuel to spare. What about you, Dick Bergen? What are you going to talk about?
Well, I want to tell you that Randy Goss and Greg Biffle have been on the radio talking back and forth with each other, and Goss keeps telling Biffle, slow, easy on the throttle, push it down one time and one time only. Meanwhile, Skinner's crew has vacillated, gone back and forth. First they told us he can make it all the way, then they told us they're not sure. It'd really be hard. That crew is on the wall just in case they're needed, but Skinner may try to go all the way.
Now, if you're Greg Biffle and you're racing for the championship, do you risk running out of gas here, or do you come in?
I believe I come in and pit. I think Greg Biffle has got to play the Kevin Harvick strategy. He's got to pit. Mike Skinner, who's 3 1/4 seconds behind Greg Biffle, and he's 10 seconds in front of Matt Kenseth. Mike Skinner, if he's going to make that commitment, he can make the gamble right here. But how you do it? How does the driver conserve fuel? They've been talking to Greg Biffle. You roll out of that throttle a little early. You don't sit there and pat the gas. You get well off the corner, and then you nail it one time.
Activity in the pits of the 8th place car, Jeff Bodine. You saw him just slow there on the racetrack. He is coming in out of gas.
That's with 8 laps to go. You've got to believe right now, if I'm Randy Goss, think about the big picture, Randy. You've got a chance to win a point championship. Do not, I repeat, do not make it tougher on you because you're behind already. Don't run this car out of gas and drop yourself down further in the points, because if you make your normal stop, you're still probably going to wind up in the top 5.
Well, Biffle's the leader. If he loses a lap making a stop, he'd be no better than 10th place. That's a lot of points to give up for a chance to win the race and get maybe 20 more than Kevin Harvick. How about it, Dick?
Well, we've got quite a conversation going on right now between Skinner's crew chief, the crew chief for Harvick. Now, both these guys work for the same man, Richard Childress. And remember, Harvick had to come in and pit earlier for fuel. Skinner is still out there. They are obviously having dialogue about whether or not Mike Skinner can make it all the way. Gil Martin, Mike Skinner's crew chief, a lot of responsibility on his shoulders. He's the guy in the red and white uniform.
David Green has made a pit stop, had to come in for a late splash. One of the drivers who we thought might be able to make it. 7th place Elton Sawyer, another of those, and 8th place Ron Hornaday, and Jeff Purvis, 9th place, though a lap down.
And I'm still looking at Kevin Grubb right there running in 4th position. He's another one of those cars I believe can make the distance.
And that would leave Harvick in 5th and Keller in 6th. 8 cars on the lead lap, and a great run for Kevin Grubb, currently in 4th place. He has led this race, and the strategy looks like it's playing right into their hands.
It sure is, and he's got about a 6.5 second lead over Kevin Harvick, so he can feather that throttle and nurse that thing on home if he needs to, and wait to see how the rest of this deal plays out.
Greg Biffle is 2 laps in front of 2 seconds in front of Mike Skinner as he battles Ron Hornaday, and there are 5 laps to go.
And he's been fighting traffic, but he's definitely slowed it down just a little bit, because it wasn't about 4 laps ago he was over 3 seconds in front of Mike Skinner.
And if I'm Randy Goss and I say, you're trying to save gas and you're racing these guys this hard, I think I'd be following him, not trying to pass him.
May let Hornaday go here, we'll see. Nope. Biffle clears and coming off turn 2. 4 to go. Whoa, Hornaday. Is Hornaday out of gas? You saw him wiggle there just a bit, like he was trying to get fuel to the pickup.
And the pickup is in the right rear corner, and a lot of times it seemed like maybe he's seen the fuel pressure gauge fluctuate just a little bit to try to get fuel back over there to the pickup. But next time by, there'll be 3 laps to go for Greg Biffle. This is a battle for 8th position right here.
Purvis around Hornaday. So here's Greg Biffle with a lead just a shade under 2 seconds. 3 laps to go. You cannot coast home from here, folks. Smoker in turn 1, Jimmy Johnson. That doesn't look like it'll be much of a factor. Dick?
Randy Goss just told his driver, Greg Biffle, to pedal it easy. Watch the fuel gauge. 2 to go. They know where they are. The 21 ran out of gas. We just heard it on the radio.
Yeah, he's coming down pit road right now, Dick, wiggling it back and forth. He is out of fuel, and that's going to come with about a lap and a half to go.
Skinner gambled and pays the price as he comes to pit road. The crew ran back to meet him. Nope, here he is, right in his pit. Little ether in through the intake, a little gas in the tank, and he's being held for a penalty by the NASCAR official.
Well, he was speeding down pit road, but when your motor's off, your tank's not working. That's how you get your pit road speed.
And the 60 car has taken the white flag right there. He's on his last lap. It looks like he may, once again, prove us wrong.
And Skinner running out of gas will help Biffle because now it's 13 seconds back to the next car, Matt Kenseth. So Greg Biffle is going to come around here looking for his 3rd win of the season, his 7th top 5, and really edge into Kevin Harvick's point lead. Biffle across the stripe, the winner.
Wow, 104 laps, 104 green flag laps.
Exactly, Larry. I mean, because when I saw the 21 car coming down pit road, I was thinking, hey, he went 2 laps further than the 60 car did to begin with. So, hey, as we talked about earlier, these guys are great poker players, and guess who won the game today?
Randy Goss and Greg Biffle.
Great job.
Nashville, Nazareth, and Milwaukee, the wins for Greg Biffle. His 3rd career victory in 18 Busch Series starts, and his 7th top 5 finish. We'll catch up with him in Victory Lane in a moment. You're watching NASCAR on FX. How close was it? Kevin Grubb ran out of gas on the cool-off lap and had to be pushed to pit road. But just to the right of pit road, our MBNA winner's circle. And the man who's there for the 3rd time this season is Greg Biffle. Nashville, Nazareth, and now Milwaukee. For Biffle, who came in here 122 behind Kevin Harvick. Dick Berggren's there.
Well, I don't need a shower. At least I didn't think I did, but I sure just got one. Biffle on the roof of the car. Oh, is he going to die? Congratulating his crew, hands held high. What a triumphant moment for Greg Biffle and his crew. And you did burnouts. Where'd you get the gas, man?
Man, I don't know. I tell you what, those guys work hard back at the shop building these fuel cells and stuff, and the team did a great job this week on the Granger Ford. Pit stop's unbelievable. I mean, I can't believe it. Randy Goss, man, they really got it figured out on fuel mileage, and I was just a little bit tight all day, just needed some more adjustments, and
yeah, we were listening to you on the radio. You were complaining all day long about the car being tight. What did you do to win this race, given that the car wasn't right?
We made some air pressure adjustments on the right side, lowered the track bar a couple turns, and the car really came around. Next stop, I was going to put a spring rubber in it, but I mean, everything worked good. The engine ran really strong today, and I'd like to say hi to everybody back home, my family, and Nicole, and it was just a great win for the Granger Ford today.
Congratulations. To Steve Burns.
All right, thanks, Dick. With Matt Kenseth, who's from Wisconsin, how important is it, how emotional to come in 2nd here at the track?
Well, it was surprising. You know, I didn't think our Visine car was very good today at all. And, you know, we just missed the setup a little bit, and we're probably good enough to run 5th, 6th, or 7th, something like that. And our last run was pretty good. We could almost run the same times as the leaders, and I didn't even know it was going to come down to fuel mileage till then. So Rick Kipley and all the guys right up here in Sauk City, Wisconsin, built awesome engines for me. And Rick's been pretty concerned about fuel mileage since the year started, and he's done a lot of work to get better fuel mileage, and today it paid off for us.
Matt, how instrumental were you in fuel mileage? You guys ran about 100 laps.
Well, I thought we could only run 80-some, so I started bugging them. I said, "Are you sure we can make it then?" And they said, "Yeah." And about 20 to go, I saw the leaders dropping off, and I was pretty sure we weren't going to make it, so I started slowing down. And as soon as I passed the 37 for position, I wasn't going to catch anybody else under green, so I just started not using the brakes and kind of letting off the gas so early, making sure we had enough. But I had never blubbered or anything, so we must have been getting a little better mileage today than I thought.
Well, good run in front of the Cheeseheads. Let's go to Dick Berggren.
23-year-old Kevin Grubb, what a big day for you. They're talking about you maybe losing your ride. 3rd here today. How'd you do it?
Yeah, I'm glad that rumor's over with, and hopefully these top 5 finishes will keep the rumor going. But can't say enough for the Timberwolf team. We had great pit stops for the past 2 weeks, finished 8th at Kentucky, and man, Terry Shirley, my crew chief, he sure cut it close on the pit strategy. I think we were blowing up and out of gas on the last lap, so I coasted there to the end, and like I said, can't say enough for him. We just need to keep on doing this and we get back up in the points. We're sitting way back here in the points, and we keep on doing it, we'll get up there.
Nice job. To Steve Burns.
Thanks, Dick. Jason Keller came home 5th. Tell us about your day, Jason.
We ran good all day, you know, and I sure would like to have won the last race on Fox, you know, but you guys have been great, and Albertson's Sport was fast all day, so, you know, hey, we can't dictate the fuel mileage, but that's the way it goes.
Thanks for your run.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. So
today it's Greg Biffle on the Milwaukee Mile. Matt Kenseth, Ford Chevy, 1-2. Kevin Grubb, Kevin Harvick, Jason Keller, Elton Sawyer, Jeff Purvis in 7th. Hornaday, Green, and Rain.
That's a good run for Ron Hornaday in that 11 team.
Yep.
You know, a good, strong run. Of course, Jeff Purvis finishing 7th. Could be his last race for Joe Gibbs Racing.
I hope not, but... And there are the rest of these cars who all had to make late race pit stops in order to make the distance. So look back through the top 20. A record number of DNFs for the Milwaukee Mile. The most cars that did not finish in the 11-year history of this event. As you see all those outs, 12 of them.
Jay Sauter, Bobby Hamilton Jr., strong runs early going. Jay Sauter losing an engine. Bobby Hamilton Jr. being caught up along with Mike McLaughlin.
The one thing I keep wondering about is how the chemistry is going to work out between Greg Biffle and Randy Gosselin. I think today is a good example of how good it really is. Greg Biffle had enough confidence in Randy to know that they'd go the distance.
And they picked up 10 points on Kevin Harvick. Not a lot, but you got to keep going after him.
Still a lot of racing to go.